Okay, recently I got the Sony ZV-E1, this camera right here, and this thing is not cheap. It's about $2,100. It has the same sensor as the Sony a7S III, which is a camera I've been wanting for a while, but this is the budget version of it, since that other camera is about $3,500. And recently I've encountered a noise issue with low light situations. So when this camera is set to S-Log3, it does have to be set to either the log shooting mode or S-Log3 if you created a picture profile for it. And then you are recording in auto ISO. What it does is it goes all the way up until 12,800, which is the second native ISO. If you don't know about that, there's actually a lot of videos out there about it. Basically, this camera and some other Sony cameras have a dual native ISO thing where the image cleans up if you reach that ISO. And for this camera, it happens to be 640 as the base, and then the next one is 12,800. So if you were to record manually, you can tell that it's very different right at 10,000 and then 12,800. The image is like a world of a difference. It just cleans up a lot at 12,800. But the issue with auto ISO that I've been having is that if you were to turn on the camera, or if you were to start off in darkness or change the picture profile while in darkness, the image is super clean. It's like at the second native ISO, which is 12,800. But if you were to enter light and bring it back into darkness, for some odd reason, a whole bunch of artifacts and noise appear if you're on auto ISO. So if the auto setting got triggered to get lower than 12,800 and then go back to 12,800, for whatever reason, it just doesn't switch to the second native ISO level. It doesn't clean up the image. But it does clean up the image if you were to start off in darkness, turning on your camera, or for instance, changing the picture profile mode to S-Log3. So I find it very, very strange, and I definitely consider that to be a software glitch. I don't know if I'm the only one experiencing this, because I have not heard a single soul talk about this other than, I just have never heard about anyone talking about this. So maybe it's just my unit. Maybe I'm making this video for no reason. But basically this is just a warning, is if you get this camera, which is considered a vlog camera, which is ironic because for vlogging, sometimes you're on the run, sometimes it gets darker, sometimes you're shooting in light and then dark, and you sort of want that auto ISO. It's a good feature to have, but if what it does is create a whole bunch of noise for no good reason, I think that's a very, very limiting factor in that camera. And I think that hopefully they can fix it with a firmware update, or again, maybe it's just an issue with my camera since nobody else is talking about it. It just means that you have to use manual ISO while you're shooting in low light settings, which isn't too difficult if you set it up correctly. What I did was I set it up to be right here where exposure compensation is usually. The only dial in this camera basically is how I set up ISO. And I had to do it that way because it was the fastest. It would have been easier to just use exposure compensation with auto ISO to make sure that it passed the base ISO, but it is capped at that even if you change the ISO range limit. Right now my camera is set to ISO range limit to all the way up to 400,000 ISO. And it's kind of ironic because the ISOs above 12,800, if you set it manually, they still look cleaner than auto ISO's supposed 12,800. But for whatever reason, it just does not switch to that cleaner image when it goes from light to dark. Like I said before, it does have that clean image when you first turn it on or when you switch the picture profiles, which indicates to me that it's a bug. And it's very disappointing. I actually got on the phone with Sony today to talk about this issue, but they're unaware of it, or at least like the people that I were talking to did not know that it existed. They've never heard of it, which leads me to believe that this is just an issue with my camera. But this is also why I'm making this video. If you happen to have a Sony ZV-E1, let me know if you can confirm whether or not this is just an issue with my camera or your camera, because it is bugging me. It would be so nice if I can just have it in auto ISO and then it just automatically switches to that second base level of native ISO in S-Log3. Once again, it this is an issue only in S-Log3. If you switch it to S-Sonotone or you switch it to no picture profile, this issue does not exist. It just looks clean throughout. So it's only if you're shooting in S-Log3. And it works, and it happens, the issue happens in any recording setting if you're using S-Log3. So 4K, 1080, whether you're shooting at 24 FPS, 30 FPS, or whatever, it happens. So it's unfortunate, and I don't really know what to do about it other than just shooting in manual ISO. And if this issue is not just an issue with my camera, that's all we can do is shoot in manual. And that's pretty much all I had for this video. I've been spending a lot of time with this Sony ZV-E1, so I wanted to just talk about like basically the roadblock to making it like the perfect camera for me to use while vlogging. So that's just something that came up. I felt like I needed to express. Hopefully this issue is not gonna be a big deal, but I just wanted to put it out there. Okay, that's all. Peace.